welcome you. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate the heritage that you give into our community and to our valley. It's kind of interesting as we age, we find that we recognize and know these people that we're paying tribute to. My first experience with Delane Roberts was something about not stopping for a stop sign. And that was at a young age, and I think back on that, and Delane couldn't have been very old, probably just into the end of the service. Then I find that I'm actually related to the Johnsons. My sister-in-law, Florence Lundschwander, is a granddaughter, so we're connected a little bit there too. I would just tell you that we appreciate you, and we call this the Afton Heritage Hall of Fame, but it's really the Star Valley Heritage. And as we live in Star Valley and we're in different communities, we're all in this together, and we just appreciate the contribution that others have made to our community. And we thank you for being here. We're grateful for these people that have meant so much to our valley. And I will turn the time over to Dr. Helen. Thank you.
We are pleased to honor Delane Roberts and Charles A. Johnson into the Afton Heritage Hall of Fame. To begin this event, the grandchildren and great-grandchildren of Delane Roberts will honor us with a musical number.
One verse, and then we'd like the audience to join in on the second time around. God bless you.
Beside her and guide her
Delane Roberts is remembered for his love of the people he served in Afton, Star Valley, and Wyoming. He had a generous heart in offering assistance to others. His love for country was evident in his service in the U.S. Army and law enforcement, and as a Wyoming State Senator. He served in many capacities in a lifetime of public service. Remarks will be shared by Family Representative Randy Roberts.
Well, I'm going to try to do this. I want to start off by saying thank you from the Roberts family for honoring our father and grandfather for this prestigious award. This award is actually makes Dad a Triple Crown winner. He was Wyoming Law Enforcement Hall of Fame, Wyoming Outdoor Hall of Fame, now this award. But out of all the awards, I think he would treasure this one above all. He'd be very pleased to have his picture placed on the wall next to his very dear friend, Harry Bruce, our neighbor, Dr. Perks, Carmen Linford, who he worked with a lot when he was on the school board, and you know, I saw Dr. Perks on it. Probably everybody here's got a Dr. Perks story, but mine is when I would go in there, I'd always have allergies. When I'd go in there, he'd say, "Rand, where you been? Everybody else has been in here to get their shots already." And then I'd go in for my football exam, my physical, and he'd go, "Rand, I'm not going to give it to you. You're going to ruin your knees. You're not going to be able to play basketball." I remember how he loved basketball. That was my Dr. Perks story. Delane was born January 15, 1933 in Afton, Wyoming to David Ephraim and Viola Jane Roberts. He was raised in Etna, Wyoming with 6 siblings. David, Duncan, Adele, Dee, Richard, Dean, and Deona. He attended the Etna Elementary and Star Valley High School. He was very athletic and excelled in basketball and football. He attended BYU where he played football his freshman year. His parents taught him the value of integrity, honesty, and hard work, which defined his life. On June 27, 1952, he married his sweetheart, Nelda Ray Smith, in the Logan LDS Temple. They were married for 64 years until Nelda's passing. They had 5 children, 14 grandchildren, and 15 great-children. 15 now? Yeah, I think 15 now. Just had another one. Great-grandchildren. He's also loved by all his nieces and nephews and thought of them as his own. Nothing gave him more joy than his family and spending time with them, especially at the family cabin. He served his country in the U.S. Army where he was stationed in Texas. He was also a member of the 4th Army team where he won the championship and also won the U.S. Army Distinguished Marksman Award. He was well known for his many pistol and rifle championships. And I guess I'm pretty well known there too, because they had the premiere of the Alamo movie there, and Mother actually took me to that premiere, and I guess I screamed all the way through, so it wasn't too popular with it. Since this award was basically for the town of Afton, I thought I would base my talk on what Dad did while he lived here. Dad was employed as a highway patrolman in Rawlins, Wyoming from 1960 to 1963. When he heard of the opening in Afton, he jumped at the chance to transfer and was awarded the job in 1963. His area of responsibility ran from the Teton County line to Cokeville, which was a very large area. He stayed with the patrol for 15 years. He finished his patrol career when he was elected to be Lincoln County Sheriff because Kimmer is the county seat. He left Afton and moved to Kimmer. A lot of this I'm gleaning from memory, so I hope I'm getting the facts correct. So this is what I remember him doing when we were living in Afton. He was concerned because there was a large gap in the communication system in the law enforcement departments and fire department. Each had their own way of communicating, and Dad wanted to get them consolidated into one dispatch center. The city police had a red light that was on a pole outside the Valley on Hotel. When you needed a policeman, you'd pick up the phone and call the operator, and when you pick it up, she'd say, "What can I operator number, please?" And you'd tell her you needed the city police. And again, she would call the Valley on and have them turn the light on. The policeman would see the red light and call the operator, and she would tell them where he was needed. I'm not sure who rang the town siren to alert the fire department, but when it would ring, all the firemen would rush to the station and find out where they're supposed to go. A new dispatch center was organized and was implemented in our house on 333 Adams Street. Charlene Booth, which is here, I'm glad to see Charlene, had the same setup in her house. Mom was the dispatcher for 5 days and Charlene for the other 2 days. In addition, we had a table with 5 phones. There was a table sitting there in the kitchen that had the highway patrol, the city police, the county sheriff, the ambulance, and the fire department. The base radio was there to communicate with the police, county, and fire, and the radios were installed in patrol cars at that time so they could actually talk to them. The buttons for the town siren was also in the house, mounted right above the desk. We always remember that. When a fire was reported on the fire phone, Mom or Charlene would push the fire siren and then start announcing on the fire phone where the fire was located. The firemen would dial a number on their phones and they could hear Mother tell where the fire was located. She would keep repeating these instructions until all the firemen had called in. It was always fun as kids to be able to ring the siren at 8 a.m. at 6 p.m. It was always, we see how long we could hold on to it, and Mother say, that's enough, that's enough. Dad was involved in a lot of the ambulance calls because of his occupation, and he decided a new ambulance was needed. Before that, Art Swab would use his hearse for dual duty, funerals and ambulance. Dad always joked about how concerned the victims of the auto accident became when Art would show up in his black suit and his fedora hat driving his hearse. So Dad and Hank Walters decided, Hank was a local forest ranger here, and they talked to Art about purchasing an ambulance and creating the ambulance company. Art agreed, and Hank purchased a 1964 blue and white Suburban and converted it to the ambulance. I'm sure a lot of you remember the ambulance. It was used in the valley for a lot of years. There were no special trained EMTs. When the call came in, Mother would call someone to drive it. They would drive to the scene, pick up the victim, and head to the hospital. Occasionally, 2 people could not be located to man the ambulance, so I made several trips with myself when I was at the age of about 15 and 16. I always hated the night calls because the ambulance was located at Squaw Mortuary, and the clean sheets were in the embalming room. And you never know who was going to occupy it. So you would open the door slowly and reach in and turn on the light. At Christmas, Dad made Christmas trees available to the town. Every year he would cut many trees and sell them for funds for Christmas. He always saved trees for his repeat customers. If it snowed, we would haul the trees downstairs in the basement and thaw them out so the buyer could see what the tree really looked like. He hired some of the less fortunate people in town to help harvest the trees. Dad was always involved in the civics. He was a member of the Lions Club. He was a member of the school board and was part of the transition team when the school boards from Star Valley and Kemmer merged and consolidated to form the Lincoln County School District. Dad spent a lot of time in public service in the criminal system for the people of Lincoln County. In 1975, he was elected county sheriff and had to move to the county seat of Kemmer. He was the last sheriff to live in the apartment above the old county jail in Kemmer. President Reagan nominated him as the U.S. Marshal for the District of Wyoming. He served there for 14 years. He established the U.S. Marshals Museum in Wyoming Territorial Park outside of Laramie. After retiring from the Marshal Service, he was elected as a Wyoming State Senator for 2 terms. He served as chairman of the Travel, Recreation, Wildlife, Cultural, and Resource Committee. Dad always had 3 things on his bucket list. He always told me this. He said he wanted to be a sheriff, he wanted to be a U.S. Marshal, and he wanted to be the warden at the penitentiary. That one I never could figure out. I think that came from when we lived in Rawlins, and he was always involved with those trustees. He would take trustees from the penitentiary and take them down and help them build a rifle range. And I remember the one day he asked the trustee if he wanted to shoot his gun, and I thought, wow, that's trust me in there. So that's what he wanted, but he gave up that to pursue the state senate job. I think the closest he got to being a warden was Brother Ken was on the state parole board. You still on that? So that was about as close as he got to that job. Dad's list of accomplishments were he was a seasonal Wyoming Game and Fish Warden. He's Lincoln County School Board, District 19, Wyoming Highway Patrolman, Lincoln County Sheriff, honorary member of the Wyoming Association of Sheriffs and Chiefs of Police, U.S. Marshal, District of Wyoming, Wyoming State Senator in District 16, Senate Chair of the Travel, Recreation, Wildlife, and Cultural Resource Committee, Wyoming Peace Officers Association President, Wyoming Peace Officer of the Year, Wyoming Peace Officers Association Meritorious Service Award, Wyoming Law Enforcement Hall of Fame, Wyoming Farm Bureau Federation Distinguished Service Award, Chairman of the Wyoming Wildlife Natural Resource Trust Board, Wyoming Wildlife Natural Resource Hall of Fame, Wyoming Outdoor Hall of Fame, U.S. Army Distinguished Marksman Award, 4th Army Rifle Champion, and many other rifle and pistol championships. He was also an honorary black belt, a board member of Freedom Arms, Etna Community Board Center, part of the Etna Community Center Board, and the Star Valley Hospital Foundation Board. On behalf of the Roberts family, again, I'd like to thank you for this honor.
Thank you, Randy. That was fun to listen to. The unveiling of Delaine Roberts' portrait will be by Delaine's children, Randy, Robin, Mary Ann, and Ken. So if they'll come up. Hall of Fame Committee member Paul Stopper will assist. All members of the Delaine Roberts family, please stand. It is an honor for the Town of Afton Heritage Hall of Fame to recognize Delaine Roberts as an inductee into the 2018 Hall of Fame. Thank you, family. We will now be honored with a musical number by the Johnson great and great-great-grandchildren.
Well, we are deeply grateful for our heritage of those who have went before us, for their character and honor and sacrifices for us. Charles A. Johnson was born in Sweden in 1864. Today we celebrate not just our heritage, but also his legacy of forgiveness, hard work, and love. His life cannot be summarized in a few lines, but his legacy can be seen and felt all around us in this valley we call home. If we could speak with him now, we would say, Grandpa, tell us about the good old days.
Tell me about the good old days. Sometimes it feels like this world's gone crazy.
And Grandpa, take me back to yesterday, when the line between right and wrong didn't seem so hazy. If love
brothers really fall in love to stay and stand beside each other come what may. Was promise really something that people kept, not just something they would say and then forget? Did families really bow their heads to pray? Did daddies really never go away? Oh, Grandpa, tell me about the good old days. Somewhere in old Wyoming lives a girl I love. We used to stroll in the gloaming under the stars above. Oh, how I wish I could see her. Oh, how I wish I could be somewhere in old Wyoming with a girl who waits for me. There's a home in Wyoming, far across the great divide. Hearts are lighter, skies are brighter, and the door is open wide. There runs a girl in Wyoming, neath the prairie stars that shine. Let me wander way up yonder to that old sweetheart of mine. Through the purple sage once more we'll ride, 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 down the sunset trail together, side by side. All alone in the gloaming, there we built a nest for two. Just a home in old Wyoming, in the land where dreams come true. Just a home in old Wyoming, in the land where dreams came true.
Thank you. Your talents are greatly appreciated. Charles A. Johnson visualized a thriving Starville where many would come, persevere, and prosper. He saw the need for roads to connect Afton and surrounding communities to the rest of the world and bring in much-needed freight. Those desires and others came to be through his work ethic and his extraordinary generosity to the people of Afton and Starville. Remarks will be shared by Family Representative Betty Pendleton.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, family, for that wonderful musical, and thanks to the Roberts family. Actually, before I get started on my talk, I'm related to the Robertses, too. So, my husband, his mother was a Roberts, and so we're related, and you're wonderful. I want you to know that. Before I begin my talk, I want to thank Mayor Newswander, the committee, and the city of Afton for this great honor. And I think for this, I speak for the Roberts family as well. What an honor it is to be here. And I also want to thank Deanne Merritt and Reynold Johnson. They have been my helpers through this whole ordeal, wonderful ordeal, I might say. And so I'm so grateful for them. I want you to know that. Well, my talk. So, let's talk about the good old days. I kind of envision that Grandpa said, well, somewhere in old Wyoming, there just might be a place for us. He envisioned a place of his own. And so they loaded everything they owned and 2 children into a small wagon and came to Star Valley. they settled on their first ranch just outside of Afton, south of Afton, in a beautiful spot. Oh, how we loved it. LaRue Johnson is here. She is my cousin, and she grew up on that ranch. She sent me a copy of the deed, the original deed for that ranch. 1891, he got that property. It's still a beautiful site. It is your Star Valley View golf course. It's a wonderful place. And we love it. We love to see the beauty there still. So, I just want to say that it seemed like Grandpa, he sort of had a vision of things. He wanted this valley to become, if you will, and he had a vision. And that's why he saw needs, and he started so many things. As you've heard Sister Helen say, he started many things, and I just want to say that he was very instrumental in the first bank in Star Valley. It was known as the Afton State Bank. It began somewhere shortly after 1915, and it was major to have a bank. For the businessmen and the farmers could get loans to improve the valley and their homes and whatever have you. And many times their loans were turned down by the bank because it didn't look like they could pay it off. And Grandpa would always say, "I will co-sign." And he did, and he stood by, and he would stand by those loans. And it turned out after the Depression, those loans came due, and he had to stand up to the plate and pay all those loans off, which he did. And then afterwards, he found out that he was dying, and he called his family around him. The people now owed him. He had paid the debt off to the bank, because the bank was in trouble for the Depression. And he gathered his family around him, and he asked them to bring the little strong box that held the notes. And he asked for a candle, and he forgave all the notes of the ranchers and farmers in Star Valley that he held those notes in 1936. People were still struggling. They had nothing for the Depression. Anyway, those his shares, he was a major shareholder, and they were sold to Carl Robinson in 1926. And anyway, he was instrumental in many things like that. And I want to tell you a little story about the school wagons. We call them wagons. They were pulled with horses. Well, one day, a bitter cold day, they had a problem. They loved education, but the farms were far out. And so the parents had to get their children to the school. So very often they would take a gentle, old, slow horse. And the kids would ride the horse, tie the horse up, go to school, get on the horse, go home. Well, one day, Aunt Lillian, Reynold Johnson's mother, woke up, and the oldest boy had chicken pox. She put the little 6-year-old on the horse and sent him off to school, bitter cold. 1.5 miles up the road, my mother looks out her window, and she sees, in a little distance, she sees a horse standing in the middle of the road, just simply standing there. And there's a child on top of that horse. Mother rushes out to find that it is her nephew, Earl Johnson. And she grabs him off. He's unconscious. She grabs him off the horse. She runs into the house. She calls to my dad, "Come quick, come quick." And together they carried dishpans of snow and cold water and massage and brought that little boy back to consciousness and back from frostbite. When Grandpa Johnson heard that, well, the rest is history. You better believe it. School wagons were on their way, and so they did. He just had so many things that he was a part of. I have a little article here that, well, I have one little article here I wanted to show you first. Deanne Merritt gave me this, and I had never seen this before 2 weeks ago. And I said, "What is this?" In looking at this, Grandpa Johnson, this is in the early 1900s, Grandpa Johnson lived on a budget. He wrote everything down. No wonder he became wealthy. No wonder he became successful. He was a budget man. And You know what budgets will do for all of us. We know that, don't we? Well, I have another article here that was written by the Star Valley Independent. And this was written at the time that they were, I just want to tell you that Lincoln County, as we know it today, began in 1921, January. It had been Lincoln County for a few years before that, but it had consisted of Lincoln County, Suffolk County, and Teton County. And they had nothing but problems, and debt. And so they finally split that into 3 counties, but Lincoln County carried that huge debt. Now they needed county commissioners. They had 2 holdovers and they needed 1. And so this article says, it's announcing he is running. This is on July the 4th, 1920, this is dated. And they've convinced him to run for county commissioner. It says he is not a politician, and Republicans and Democrats alone have both have invited him to do that and persuaded him, and so he did. Now, I just want to read you here a few things that this says. It says here, he does not need an introduction to Star Valley. He's lived here 29 years, and he is a personal friend to almost everybody in this valley. It goes on to say that his good common sense and his marked vision has made him wealthy, influential, and respected by all the people of the valley. It goes on to say, it says he's the largest taxpayer in all of Star Valley. So that tells you he was a wealthy man. And that came about because of his frugality and his hard work ethic. And he was young when he started, and he was energetic. And so he had a dream for Star Valley and for his own family. And they raised 12 children. Then it gives kind of a compliment as to the Afton area and the Star Valley area, and it says he is one of the most influential factors in the building of our inland empire. I think that says so much. It ends by saying Star Valley, almost to the man, now think about that, almost to the man will vote for Charles Johnson because of his good common sense and his practical work ethic. And I think that just says so much. I like these articles because it's not a granddaughter just standing up here bragging about her grandpa, you know? And although she's doing that, isn't she? Anyway, these articles say a bunch. I have another little article I want to refer to, the Kimmer Gazette. This is 10 years after. This one was in 1920. This one is in 1932. Well, it seems that a group of stockmen, and my grandfather was, by the way, a sheep farmer, majorly, a sheep farmer. He was a cattle farmer, and he had milk cows, but mostly sheep. He had almost 7 bands of sheep, 1,000 sheep to the band. He had 6,688 sheep. And so, by the way, when he paid that humongous debt off to the bank, or the bank was going to go under, he used all his own money, and he sold every last one of his sheep to do it. So he was quite a rancher. Anyway, the Kimmer Gazette, it seems that a group of men were seated at a table discussing, they were ranchers, and they were discussing the price of feed. And the editor of the Kimmer Gazette was sitting with them. And Charles Johnson passes by, and he greets them, goes on through, and one of the ranchers say, now there is a man. There is a great neighbor. The editor says, why would you say that? He said, well, a few years ago, it was a hard winter, and feed was very scarce. And he said, Charles Johnson had 300 ton of hay that he could sell. And he was offered $25 a ton by an outside entity. And that was a lot of money. His budget talks about $3.50 a ton. Hey. He was offered $25 a ton, and he wanted to take it. It's going to be a lot of money into his pocket. But he reluctantly turned it down, explaining that my neighbors and friends in Star Valley are going to need this hay for their milk cows before the winter is over. And then it says that he kept a half a dozen or more ranchers and farmers in hay that winter. It ends with a very nice statement. It says, it began by saying, the true Western spirit is not yet dead, and there's still a spark in thy brother's keeper. And then it ends by saying, there are not many left, but Charles A. Johnson, one of the best, the truest, and the manliest of the old school, still remains. Long may he live and prosper is the fervent prayer of scores, whom he has helped and saved from ruin. I am so proud of Grandpa Johnson, and the longer I researched him, the more I loved him. The more I could see that he was really a great man. He really did a lot for the valley, for the people coming in to help others. Mother said they're home every evening. Almost every evening, somebody was there. They wanted some advice. They wanted some know-how. She said they even asked for a milk cow or sometimes a little hay or a little grain. And she ended it by saying, Pa, she always called him Pa. She said, Pa never turned anyone down. And she said, Pa was loved by everyone until the Depression hit, and he tried to get that money to pay those debts. And then she says some people got a little upset with him, but he was loved by everyone in the valley. I pay tribute to him and to the posterity. We, the posterity, have a great heritage. I want you to know that with all my heart. We have a great heritage. And I think we have something to live up to and something to do. And I'm sure it's the same with the Roberts family. And I want to end with a little ditty that I saw and I really liked. The question was asked, where in the world is Afton, Star Valley? Where in the world is Star Valley, Wyoming? The answer came back, oh, it is right next to heaven. And so it is, right next to heaven. We are fortunate to live in a haven of a little place. And we have something to do to further the cause and the good things of Star Valley. Thank you very much, and thank you to these wonderful people that have done so much.
Thank you, Betty. The unveiling of the Charles A. Johnson's portrait will be by Lynn Porter, and also Deanne Merritt, Reynold Johnson, and Val Paxton. Ann Sanderson, a member of the committee, will assist. Members of the Charles A. Johnson family still stand. It is an honor for the Town of Afton Heritage Hall of Fame to recognize Charles A. Johnson as an inductee into the 2018 Hall of Fame. Thank you, family. Today we have honored these individuals into the Afton Heritage Hall of Fame. We have been reminded not only of the contributions made of the development and growth of the town of Afton and surrounding areas, but also of its people. Delane Roberts and Charles A. Johnson are great examples of making a difference. An anonymous quote states, "We can talk about making a difference, or we can make a difference." Our sincere thanks to our Bishop's and SBI Star Valley Independent for their assistance this day and for all those who have helped in any way. This event can be viewed on the Star Valley Independent website at sbinews.com. Also for your information, the Star Valley Pioneer and Historical Museum and Lander Trail Museum will be open until 5 o'clock. Collier Museum will be open until 7 p.m. Thank you so much for your attendance and support. Have a wonderful day and enjoy the many events noted on the back of the program. And just as a reminder for the parade, lineup is at 4:30.